So we'll likely have a few more folks filtering in, but the lovely feature about how this webinar is being held is that it is being recorded. So we're going to have the ability to send it out to folks who are either running a little late or weren't able to make it. So let's go ahead and dive in. Quick introduction. My name's Elliot. I'm the CEO of Velonix Technologies, and we have with us today Andrew Lance, who is our Director of Service Delivery. He leads our service delivery teams across the help desk, across managed services nationwide for Velonix. And excited to talk today about a problem and a challenge that is, at least near and dear to my heart, which is around communication. It is a challenge that plagues many organizations, many teams. I had a mentor tell me very early in my career that they believed that 99% of problems that we experience in business can be solved with better and more effective communication. And I would say the longer I go on in my career, the more that sentiment resonates with me personally. So, Andrew, what are the most common communication points that we're seeing in the workplace today?
Well, workplace and hybrid workplace, right? So what we are seeing a lot more in the modern world is a hybrid environment. And common internal communication challenges that I see are inconsistent messaging across platforms, information overload, low employee engagement, lack of visibility into communication effectiveness, and where I see leaders often struggle to ensure important updates reach all employees at the right time and in a meaningful way, whether they're remote, in office, or frontline. Most of these environments, there's just also limited data on how messages are received or acted upon. And it really makes it hard to measure impact or address strategies to achieve more effective communication.
Certainly. So in a world where we are no longer meeting together in the same office, in the same conference room to provide status updates, to disseminate information, how are teams typically communicating today?
Well, what I see a lot of is going to be like email and Teams, and there's a lot of useful tools like that. And I think they are useful, but alone that they fall short in reaching diverse employee groups and effectively and consistently. Like email often leads to oversaturation, with key messages getting buried or ignored. Teams is better for collaboration, but content there is often siloed within channels or departments. So neither platform offers robust analytics, audience targeting, campaign management capabilities. So when you introduce Microsoft Viva Amplify, it addresses these gaps by centralizing the messaging, enabling multi-channel publishing, and providing engagement insights to help organizations reach, measure, and refine communications more strategically.
Absolutely. And I've got one more question for you to kind of frame the problem for our audience here
Mhm.
before we dive into the specific solution. But what are some of the telltale signs that you see in an organization where they've outgrown their current communication tools and channels?
Well, often you see important updates getting missed or ignored, inconsistent messaging across platforms, email, internet, SharePoint, lack of visibility into who received or engaged with communications, difficulty coordinating across internal teams, whether it's HR, IT, or leadership, increased resilience on or reliance on manual processes like copy pasting into multiple platforms, and then just gathering employee feedback indicating confusion or overload.
Yeah. So I think we've all experienced at times where either a leadership team fails to push communication out across their organization, or you hear from a team member, "Oh, I missed that. I didn't see that." So in a large part, ineffective communication, lack of transparency into who's effectively received and not received, um, lack of ownership and accountability. Um, Microsoft Amplify, what is it And how does it fit in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem?
Well, so what is Microsoft Amplify and how does it fit into the Microsoft 365? So why Amplify? Uh, it centralizes internal communication tools that allow organizations to plan, publish, and manage campaigns across multiple Microsoft 365 channels, including Outlook, SharePoint, and Teams, Viva Connections. It integrates seamlessly with the Microsoft 365 suite and leveraging tools that your employees already use while providing new functionality for message targeting, scheduling, analytics, all within the same secure ecosystem.
Awesome. Well, we could spend a fair bit of time talking further about Amplify, but why don't we just dive in and take a look, and we can talk about it while we're showing it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get a screen share cooking here. And so for today's example, we're going to be using a demonstration company called Contoso Electronics. And Contoso Electronics leadership team uses Viva Amplify to foster a culture of continuous learning and professional development. So leveraging its centralized platform and writing guidance, the team creates impactful publications that will resonate with employees to use in various campaigns. These publications are distributed across various channels, and engagement metrics are analyzed to effectively promote learning opportunities and career development pathways. So, our test user today is going to be Megan. Um, Megan is leading a team at Contoso Electronics that manages multiple communications for campaigns for employees. They're launching a new campaign soon, so Megan's initiates the creation of a campaign in Viva Amplify. Makes the process easy, and she can complete the relevant information when she is prompted. So, how do we create a campaign? It's quite simple. You can go to your M365 profile, as you can see here, m365cloud.microsoft.com. And when you're looking in your apps, you can go to all apps. Amplify is one tool available into the Viva suite. So you would click the Viva product suite. That would bring you to this tab here. Then we'll simply select Amplify, as I said, one of the tools of the Viva Connections product line. So to create a campaign, very simple. You click the plus create a campaign symbol here. We're going to start by giving the campaign a fitting name and a concise description, and then we'll choose a thumbnail category. But first, we have to check off where we're starting from, and in this case, we're going to be using a blank template. So for our campaign today, it's going to be employee campaign. Please forgive any spelling mistakes and don't correct me. Nobody likes that person. Under the campaign description, it's going to be for demonstration purposes. And then our favorite color today is going to be purple. And we are speaking English as long as my computer lets me refresh. After you create the baseline campaign, you're then going to need to define your team and assign specific roles to each member. This approach will provide a well-organized and collaborative framework as they start planning the campaign. So to do so, as we just set up the campaign, we click next. We're then going to invite our two team members, Lee Gu and Miriam Graham. Lee Gu is also the approver for this project. So as you're adding team members, you can click the drop down here and select the appropriate role, whether you have additional owners, approvers, or editors, people that have the ability to edit and manipulate a campaign and or publication. So we'll go ahead and set Lee as the approver. And then from here, we would create the campaign. For time and demonstration purposes, I already have a campaign preloaded that we're going to cover more details on how the rest of this process flows. So I'm going to cancel out of here for now. But when you create that campaign, oops, you'll then be able to see it on your amplified dashboard. So what you see here are two examples of demonstration campaigns that are already preloaded. So now that we have the campaign created, we need to start planning our campaign strategy. So Megan and her team have been working on a comprehensive campaign strategy for a campaign for quite some time now. This is the employee skilling campaign to help motivate, train, and promote their team members. They've already defined the campaign objectives and key messages, and all of this is shared and collaborated through OneDrive. So we want to update our key messages and objectives into the campaign for overall visibility, because the idea is that these objectives serve as the guiding pillars steering the team towards that shared vision. As you will notice, when we're going into the campaign itself, you'll click into the campaign brief, and then you'll be able to see the tabs for the objectives and the key message that we're going to update to keep the team on track. So we navigate to our OneDrive, and we're going to select our collaborative document employee skilling objective. Here we have already worked as a team to create the framework. So we are going to copy and paste our campaign objective into Amplify here and click Save. We have also created the key message, and the idea of the key messages is to resonate with the specific target audience. So we want to make sure that we're laying the groundwork for compelling and effective campaign that will resonate with the audience and achieve the overarching goals. Again, that we've already collaborated on, and we're just simply taking this out of the document, and I'm just pressing a Control-C. You can right-click if you want as well, and then we're pasting it into the key messages here. So now that our campaign and our strategy for the campaign have been implemented, we can then start going into the publishing and managing the campaign and getting into the real meat and potatoes here. So we're then going to return back to the Amplify homepage, and we're going to click our campaign. Now, what we're trying to do now here is create a publication within the campaign, because a campaign can have multiple publications depending on the communication and strategies that you define through analytics. So if you're creating one from blank, you do have options here at the very top in the overview tab here for create. If you're an advanced user, I do suggest using the blank template, because that gives you the most creative control over the publication. If you do not consider yourself an advanced user and or new to the platform, I would strongly suggest using the preloaded templates, newsletter, event, or status update. And if none of those fit your real needs and want to look at additional templates, you can always click on the View More Templates tab here. But for time and demonstration purposes, I do have a recent publication here that we have already got the draft for that the team has been working on. So the idea is that we're going to publish this document after the most recent Contoso Town Hall, and the theme of the meeting is going to be bridging the AI educational gap. So we're going to open up our campaign, and the whole idea here is that this has already been worked already. We've already got the content, it's already been reviewed, and the final step that we want to do here is to add a banner and a finishing touch and just review the document and make sure that it's all 100% accurate. So walking through that process very simply here, we're going to click the edit feature that pops you up the opening toolbox immediately. So the meat and potatoes is right here of the document, but right now what we're trying to do is add a banner and adding some finishing, mostly visual touches here. So we're going to add a section, and for this we're going to use one column. When you click here in this box, a gray plus tab will then pop up, and we're going to want to add a web part. That web part that we're doing for this specific portion here is the banner. You will see that there's multiple different options and things to choose from, as well as application integrations that will allow you to interject video from other platforms. But for today, we're selecting header. To add an image, you can simply hover over the header and then navigate to the option list that pops up and click Browse Images. There's a ton of stock images available to you at no additional cost outside of your licensing fees. Keep in mind, as you're using images, that if you do not have ownership rights to, that it's probably not the best idea to use those images. So using stock images is a great idea. For this article, since it's about AI and we want to get something relevant here. We're going to do artificial hands. I'm going to select this first robot generated hand and insert it into my header. In the header, you also have several layout options here to where you can just highlight the author and different visual effects. The one that I personally like the best is image and heading because it removes any gradient features or anything that can really make the document unclear. In the settings tab and properties here, you can always go in and look at the options that we just went over if you don't prefer the drop down menu. There's other options that you can do for layouts and imaging, but that's going to move us into a more advanced course. And so if you're interested in deep diving and looking at that, please just reach out to your local account manager and we can get you guys set up with a meeting and an appointment to cover that in a little bit more depth and detail. So from here, we have added our header image, and we are going to insert our document title, which is Bridging the Learning Gap in AI. You'll be able to see the author's contact information as well. So if anybody needs to get in reach or communicate with them or see any pertinent shared files, you'll be able to see that by hovering over the contact here in this tab. Once this is complete, we've reviewed the document and we've added our header. We're then going to start to move over to the publishing phase because now we're ready to start disseminating this information out through our teams. To do that, you'll simply just click Next. There's multiple options for the unified communications, and I'm going to walk you through a brief scenario through Outlook, SharePoint, and Teams, because that is the ecosystems that the majority of our clients work through and communicate through. So the first option here is going to be Outlook. You have an option to review the content to make sure that everything's 100%. And you can customize your audience because customizing your audience and the content to those audiences is incredibly important to make sure that you're maximizing engagement and communication. For this letter, this is actually going to go out to an all staff. So the destination for this is going to an all employees distribution group. You can always carbon copy or blank copy here as well, or import email addresses from file if you're doing an email blast externally. I always suggest sending a test email because when you do that, you can verify that all the parameters and everything in which you have configured is set up and ready to go. So I just sent us a test email. I'm going to go walk over to my inbox here. And here we go. It works quick and efficiently and distributes to the teams as well. My internet connection here is just over here struggling, so it's just trying to open it up. I'll go back to that once it has some time to load.
So Andrew, you're walking through how to build a campaign, and there's a lot of really useful information here in terms of how to do it. Maybe spend a little bit of time talking about the what and the why. So you said there's Outlook, there's Teams, there's SharePoint. You know, how's this different than, say, just sending an email with the information?
Well, there's a couple big things. I'm going to go over two primary points here. And a lot of this is going to be targeted messages, right? Because with leadership, a lot of the time we struggle to find the best ways to engage and communicate with our teams. Is anybody even listening, right? And targeted communications ensures relevance. Not all employees need the same information at the same time. For example, a new HR policy may be critical for managers, but irrelevant for frontline workers. So by targeting messages based on role, location, or department, communicators can actually reduce noise, increase engagement, and ensure that messages resonate with the intended audiences, ultimately leading to better compliance and action. There's an example I read in an article once. It's about a mid-sized healthcare organization, and leadership made a change in compliance policy. They did send it out via email. They shared it on the internet site, and they even mentioned it in team meetings. However, because the messaging wasn't coordinated or tracked, many frontline employees didn't get the update. And as a result, several team members failed to follow new procedures, leading to non-compliance fines, reputational damage. And so having like a centralized solution like Viva Amplify, you could have ensured in consistent delivery, reinforced key messages across multiple channels, and provided metrics on reach and engagement, helping the company avoid costly oversights. Why that's so important on the metrics side is because you will eliminate the, oh, I didn't get that message, or I didn't see that, or it didn't skim it, right? You'll be able to pinpoint metrics and analytics to figure out how your team members are reading, if they're reading, when they're engaging, the whole who, what, when, where, why, how. And Amplify is the tool that delivers those analytics.
So, Andrew, if we go back to the example that you were showing with bridging the AI education gap,
Mm-hmm.
and you were showing us how to set up the campaign. Um, one more tab over. Yeah, so you here we're previewing it for Outlook, but looks like there's also previews for SharePoint and for Teams so that we can push this communication out through whichever or as many channels as we want. Can
Absolutely.
can you
Absolutely.
can you show us how Amplify helps us measure and track impact of message communications?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to bring us into a different tab here in Amplify. It's still within the campaign, and I'm going to bring all this up for you right now. So you will actually be able to go into your campaign here and then go over into the reporting tab. This is all within the same GUI and interface that we've been accessing all the other options and features that we've been reviewing today. But the overview page here, the reporting page here is going to give you a bunch of unique information. It's going to give you all time from the initial start of the campaign to the date that we are here now, how much percentage of your organization has actually viewed this. It'll give you the channel breakdown of where they're viewing it, whether in Outlook, SharePoint, or Teams, that can help you as a leader more effectively communicate with your team for directives and information that needs to disseminate in the future. And then promotions. Promotions is going to be how many times your publication has been shared. Internally, that might not make so much sense to you, but externally, there are some other things that you can use here to generate future engagement and tracking. Reactions, because we all live off of emojis in the modern world, it'll show you how people are reacting, whether it's negative, positive, indifferent. But not only allow them to visually display that interaction, but give them the option to leave feedback and communication, which is great because it keeps it in its own little bucket in that one space. Because an issue that I see with Teams is sprawl, and you have little pieces of information that are siloed into channels or teams, that makes it difficult to combine and hold the team accountable and review those metrics. And so using this through Amplify allows you to collate all that data into one spot. It also tells you on average how long somebody took to read the publication and from where to, and then additional publication reports for any of your other publications that you've made within that campaign as well.
So, at a high level, you're building a communication, uh, medium, and you're pushing it out through various channels that your team may go to for information, whether it's Teams, SharePoint, connections or engagement, email, and you're able to track how people are consuming it. Can you give us some real world use cases that you've used Amplify for to drive more effective communication across your team, which is, dispersed from California to New England?
Uh, the reason why I love Amplify in Velonix is because it allows my leadership team and I to communicate small incremental changes to make large impacts on client success and performance. without having to sit in one gigantic meeting or to have several emails going back and forth or clutter and siloed information within teams. And so I can track, not only be able to make the incremental changes within a moment's notice, but able to track and see who has observed it, who has been able to see it and acknowledged it, be able to receive feedback on if there is a change that we made that creates another issue down the pipeline, to create better awareness. But in also the grand scheme, and probably one of the biggest Microsoft 365 buzzwords is collaboration, right? Being able to effectively disseminate information, record the analytics, and receive feedback and comments all within one bucket and one single pane of glass creates a lot of efficiency and helps you really focus on how to target and communicate in the future.
Absolutely. So pushing out change management and the communication around change management more effectively. I know that that's been a big improvement. One of the things I've enjoyed about it is you have the ability to embed video. So as we think about interacting with a multi-generational workforce, and the reality is different people consume different content at different clips. Being able to all the things that we think about in sales and marketing, omni-channel, different content medium styles to try to reach the audience where they're at, we're able to do with our internal teams here, which is super effective. For somebody jumping in who is not maybe may not classify themselves as a technophile or overly technically savvy, how difficult is it to get started with Amplify?
I think as long as you can set up an iPhone, you can use Amplify. The steps are very intuitive. I know that I was trying to cram a lot into a small segment there and kind of really walk you through those steps and processes. But at the end of the day, it's always fill this in, click next. Fill this in, click next. If you want to add something, look for the plus sign. Everything, when you want to add something within Viva Amplify, you just quite literally hover over the plus sign and click it. And then it then again walks you through step by step. Do you want it to look like this? Do you want it to look like this? And as you go through the prompts and the options, it's very similar to using most simple applications and devices.
What are some of the best practices you've built for building campaigns?
What are some of the best practices? So, one of the things that I like to do is to make sure that I keep things consistent and on message within the targets in the teams, right? So, I want to make sure that I am targeting the right audience. I'm catering the right information to that audience, and only pertinent things matter because, as you guys know, the boy who cried wolf is a real thing, and it can lead to massive confusion and breakdowns within the team.
Absolutely. I want to pause there for just a moment, open it up to the audience. If anybody has any questions about, what problem we're trying to solve or why or how Amplify is a potential solution here. Happy to field any questions from the team or from the audience. I'll say that I have found as I push out communication across our organization, the reception rate and the effectiveness of whether it's a notification of a process change, a general company-wide update, that I've seen more than a twofold increase in engagement across our team from doing it through Amplify multi-channel across SharePoint Teams and email than just an email or just a SharePoint blast, or sorry, just a Teams blast alone. So I've seen a huge impact of when I send things out via Amplify, driving super effective communication. I know one of the questions that always comes up is, licensing and what's the cost for Amplify. Um, so Amplify, as you mentioned, is part of the Viva suite. So if you're already licensing the full Viva suite, you should have access to Amplify. If you're not, the licensing that gives you access to these modules, depending upon, of course, whether you want to license it annual or monthly, is around $2 a month. Not everybody across the team needs it. Those involved with building and disseminating campaigns do. But if you think that this is interesting and something that you may want to test out, please reach out to us. I think this is a great tool and would be super happy to work with you to see if we can make it effective. So we've got a question from John here. How does the user experience compare between internal organizational users and external users invited to use it? So it all comes down to security settings around access. So I do send out some campaigns that include some external users. And if you're just putting in text, there's not a whole lot. If you're attaching files, embedding video, anything that the data is coming from a location that that user just needs to have permissions or access to, the main difference between an external user and an internal user comes down to how are the security and access permissions configured in your tenant, which we can certainly work with you to help. So John, hopefully that answers your question. In terms of the look and feel of the campaign, the look and feel of the team's messages, the Outlook emails is going to be very, very similar between internal and external users. And then we have a question from Olga around can Viva be used effectively by smaller teams? Yes. The short answer is from my perspective, yes. You know, if you're a small team that everybody sits in the same co-working facility or the same office all day every day, and you're having this information be very, very easily and very, very quickly disseminated, Amplify may still be good, but may not be as needed. If you're a small team that's dispersed, people working from home, people traveling on vacation, you've got a more flexible work environment than we all did pre-COVID. It really doesn't matter the team size. Information and communication is not flowing as effectively as it used to in organizations, regardless of their size, despite the fact that we have more tools at our fingertips. And in fact, that may be part of the problem is we have too many tools at our fingertips. People are inundated by email and Teams and whatever internal tools that you use, and they don't always know where to go to get the right communication. So I would say maybe one of the things we've tried to drive around best practice is trying to create rituals. We do change management notifications via Amplify on a consistent schedule and cadence each week so that the team knows what to expect and when to expect. Andrew, anything further on either of those questions?
No, I think it's extremely useful for small teams, and the small 2-3 person in an office type thing, maybe not so much. But anytime that you have workers in any type of hybrid environment, this type of information does make a lot of sense. And the good part about it is, like Elliot said earlier, people learn in different ways. They all have their favorite ways to digest information. This simply publishes it everywhere. So there's no excuse to I didn't see it where I like to see it. And then also gives you the analytics to be able to figure out and digest how people are reading and giving that instant communication and feedback loop. It just when it comes to hybrid remote workplace and teams, it makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for a very thorough overview of what the challenges that teams are facing with communication today, uh, why Amplify is potentially a good solution, One of the things I love about it is how it's threaded across the Microsoft ecosystem, where most of us are spending a lot of our day working and trying to drive effectiveness across our teams. We'll hang around for a few moments. If anybody has any questions, wants to go any further on the topic, Andrew and I will be available. Thank you for attending. If you're interested in seeing about how to implement Amplify for your team to drive effective communication, reach out to your account manager, reach out to our team. I will put a email here in the chat. You can reach out to that as well. You know, we're passionate about driving productivity in a modern work environment. We think Amplify and Viva are a part of the solution within Microsoft that can be very effective, and we'd love to help you out.